if you are building a Bordeaux cellar, here's a mistake I think many collectors make. They spend hundreds of dollars chasing the famous first rows, when some of the smartest bottles I have ever bought cost barely $50. In fact, I bought both of today's wines for around $55 over a decade ago. They are now worth more, but here's the interesting part. Their current vintages still sell for around $50. That's exactly the kind of wine I love buying. Not because it's cheap, because it consistently over-delivers. One question I have been asked many times over the years is, if I'm buying one affordable left bank Bordeaux, should I choose Margaux or Pauillac? Both are dominated by Cabernet Sauvignon. Both produce classified growth. Both age beautifully, yet they couldn't taste more different. Today, I'm comparing two bottles from my own cellar. Château Brane-Cantenac from Margaux, Château Grand-Puy-Lacoste from Pauillac. I have been buying both for decades, and if I were rebuilding my cellar today, I would happily buy them again. By the end of this video, you will understand the differences between these two classic Bordeaux appellations, how each wine tastes, what food I would pair with them, and which one I think offers the better buy depending on what you are looking for. And one final thought before we begin. While you are still discovering your preferences, buy 3 or 6 bottles rather than a full case of 12. A cellar should evolve alongside your taste. First, a short history of the left bank. Before comparing the wines, it's worth understanding how these two famous appellations came to exist. Although the Romans introduced viticulture to Bordeaux during the 1st century AD, as evidenced by Pliny the Elder mentioning vines here in 71 AD, vineyards only really began to flourish during the 13th and 14th centuries under English rule, when wine exports expanded dramatically. Large-scale planting came later, in the late 1500s, after King Henri Henry IV commissioned Dutch engineers to drain the Medoc marshlands. By the 18th century, Bordeaux had become one of the world's red wine regions. Pauillac's access to the Gironde estuary helped establish its reputation, while estates throughout the Medoc, including Margaux, rapidly developed into some of the most sought-after properties in Europe. Today, both appellations sit among Bordeaux's greatest names. Margaux versus Pauillac. If I had to summarize them in one sentence, Margaux is elegance, Pauillac is structure. Both are built around Cabernet Sauvignon, but different soils and different blends produce completely different personalities. Margaux. Margaux lies in the southern Medoc, where the soils are among the thinnest and most gravelly in Bordeaux. Those soils naturally produce wines known for silky tannins, floral perfumes, vibrant red and blue fruit, plum, truffle, and a graceful finish that never feels heavy. Cabernet Sauvignon still provides a backbone, but Margaux typically contains considerably more Merlot than Pauillac, around 40% compared with roughly 20%. That extra Merlot softens the wine and often makes them approachable slightly earlier. Margaux isn't about power, it's about finesse. And despite that elegance, these wines can age for decades. The appellation is also home for 21 classified growths from the famous 1855 classification. Pauillac. Travel a little further north and everything changes. Pauillac's deeper gravel and clay soils produce some of Bordeaux's most structured wines. Expect darker fruit, cedar, graphite, forest floor, and firm tannins. Cabernet Sauvignon often represents 75 to 80% of the blend, the highest proportion anywhere in Bordeaux. That's what gives Pauillac its unmistakable backbone and extraordinary aging potential. These are broad-shouldered wines with real authority. Powerful, yet remarkably elegant. Complex, yet incredibly composed. Pauillac is also home to 18 classified growths in the 1855 classification. Together, Margaux and Pauillac represent two very different expressions of classic left bank Bordeaux. One built around finesse, the other around structure. Now, let's see how that plays out in the glass. Both bottles today come from the outstanding 2010 vintage. Château Brane-Cantenac 2010. It's a Margaux second growth. Founded in the 18th century, Brane-Cantenac entered its modern era when the Lurton family purchased the estate in 1925. Lucien Lurton inherited it in 1956 before passing it to his son Henri in 1992. A trained enologist with experience across the Southern Hemisphere, Henri transformed both the vineyards and winery through major investment and modern vineyard management. The result has been more than 2 decades of wines that perfectly capture what red Margaux is all about: aromatic finesse and elegance. The 2010 is a blend of 62% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, and 8% Cabernet Franc. I bought this bottle in 2014 for $55. Today, it's worth around $130. Recent vintages remain excellent value, with the 2024 around $50 and the 2022 around $105. In the glass, it immediately feels unmistakably Margaux. Red berries, plum preserve, baking spices, sweat leather, graphite, and dry flowers lead into a wonderfully layered palette of cherry, blackcurrant, raspberry, licorice, truffle, and earthy forest floor notes. What I love most is the balance. The wine is concentrated without ever becoming heavy, fresh, energetic, and beautifully poised. Forget the rather inconsistent wines produced during the 1970s and 1980s. Modern Brane-Cantenac is one of Bordeaux's real success stories. Personally, I would even give this 2010 a slight edge over the celebrated 2009 Château Grand-Puy-Lacoste 2010. It's a Pauillac fifth growth. Grand-Puy-Lacoste dates back to the 1730s and remained within related families for nearly 2 centuries. After Raymond Dupin purchased the estate in 1932, quality gradually declined, particularly during the 1960s and 1970s. Everything changed in 1978 when Jean-Eugène Bory, owner of Du Cru Beaucaillou, acquired the property. His son François-Xavier quickly modernized both the chateau and vineyards, producing an outstanding 1982 vintage that marked the estate's return to greatness. Today, Grand-Puy-Lacoste regularly performs well above its fifth growth classification. The 2010 is 83% Cabernet Sauvignon and 17% Merlot. I bought this bottle in 2013 for $55. Today, it's worth around $120. Recent vintages remain remarkably affordable, with the 2024 around $50 and the 2022 around $95. This is classic Pauillac. Dark berries, roasted nuts, graphite, crushed rocks, violets, and sweet spices open into a palette packed with blackberry, coffee bean, dark chocolate, licorice, and savory mineral notes. The tannins are beautifully textured, giving the wine impressive structure without sacrificing drinkability. What impresses me most is how complete it feels. Even at 16 years of age, it remains vibrant and youthful, with complexity still unfolding. For more than 40 years, Grand-Puy-Lacoste has consistently punched above its fifth growth ranking. This bottle shows exactly why. Final verdict. After decades of drinking both appellations, I have stopped trying to decide which is better. They are simply different. If dinner is built around roast chicken, duck, veal, or cheeseboard, I almost always reach for Margaux. Its elegance and floral character suit lighter dishes beautifully. If lamb, steak, or rich, slow-cooked stew is on the menu, I'm opening Pauillac. Its structure and depth are exactly what those dishes need. And if you are building a cellar on a sensible budget, Brane-Cantenac and Grand-Puy-Lacoste remain two of the smartest classified growth purchases I know. They have rewarded me for decades, and at around $50 for recent vintages, they still represent some of the best value anywhere on Bordeaux's left bank. If you had to choose just one, would you reach for the elegance of Margaux or the power of Pauillac? I would love to hear which side you are on, and if there is another Bordeaux comparison you would like to see next, let me know in the comment section below. You will find more of my cellar insights and tasting notes on Instagram. Massive thanks for watching today. I will see you in the next one.